You know how it is just constant information coming at you? It feels like your brain's totally overloaded sometimes.
Yeah, it's like trying to listen to one person in a really loud party. Just noise.
Exactly. And what you really want is just quiet, a way to focus on what actually counts.
That's the big challenge today, isn't it? We're drowning in data, but starving for, like, actual wisdom. How do you pick out what matters?
Well, that's what we're trying to do right now. We're taking a deep dive into this collection. It's called Focus on What Matters. Really interesting stuff.
Ah, yes. It pulls together letters and essays, right? On happiness, wealth, health.
Relationships, yeah, all looked at through a stoic lens, basically.
And it's practical stuff, not just philosophy floating in the air. Real tools.
Totally. So our mission for you listening is to pull out the absolute core ideas from this, the things that can genuinely help build resilience, help you stay present.
And maybe live a more fulfilling life without needing to read every single page yourself.
Right. Think of it as the highlights reel, but, in a conversation. So where should we kick off?
I think we have to start with the inner world. The book makes a strong case that any real improvement has to begin inside. Mental stability is foundational for happiness.
That really rings true. You can have everything going right externally, but if your head's a mess.
It doesn't matter much, does it? And keeping that inner peace, well, it's tough in this distractible world we live in.
So true. How does the book suggest stoicism helps here? Is it just about being unemotional?
Not exactly unemotional, more about protecting your mind, building a kind of mental fortress almost. Stoic ideas give you strategies for that.
Like Marcus Aurelius, he talks about having something stronger inside than just bodily passions, right?
Precisely. That quote points to our reason, our inner command center. We feel emotions, sure, but we don't have to be ruled by them. We have this internal power.
Okay, so take like a crazy deadline at work, panic sets in.
Right. Instead of just freaking out, the idea is to pause, access that inner strength the book mentions. Recognize, okay, I feel stressed, but my mind can handle this.
Focus on what you can do step by step.
Exactly. And this ties into self-regulation, something Darius talks about in the collection. Managing your own emotional state, especially around other people.
Setting boundaries so you don't just absorb everyone else's stress or negativity.
Yes, he really emphasizes that. How easily moods can be, well, contagious if you're not mindful.
Hmm.
You need that self-awareness.
So it's not about building walls, but more like having a conscious filter for what you let affect you.
That's a good way to put it. You acknowledge the external emotions, but you choose your internal response. You decide what you internalize.
It's interesting, though, because you also hear perspectives like Brene Brown's work on vulnerability.
Right, which emphasizes connection and shared experience.
Yeah, it seems almost opposite. Stoicism seems more about protecting the self, Brene Brown more about opening up.
It's a different focus. Forough, aligning with Stoicism, is prioritizing that inner calm, that equilibrium. Brown highlights how sharing vulnerability builds empathy, strengthens bonds. They aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but they emphasize different facets of emotional life.
Interesting tension there. Okay, what about motivation? Sometimes that just disappears. How does focus on what matters tackle that?
Well, one angle it takes, in letter 3, I think, is finding motivation through knowledge. Like actively exploring things you're curious about can actually reignite your drive.
So picking up a book on a topic you find cool could actually get you unstuck.
That's the idea. It's like feeding your mind can fuel your spirit. The author even shouts out writers like William Zinsser on writing, Jack Schwager on trading.
So dive into something that genuinely interests you, and that engagement itself can be motivating.
Exactly. And it suggests the act of learning itself has value. It doesn't always need a direct payoff. Just pursuing knowledge can be meaningful, fulfilling.
That makes sense. It connects to that basic human curiosity. And Seneca pops up here too, right? About learning.
Yeah, Seneca emphasizes that knowledge is always better than ignorance,
Yep.
basically. Lifelong learning has these unexpected benefits. You never know what idea might click and change things.
It's a good way to combat feeling, stuck or apathetic. Learning feels active. It feels like progress.
Definitely. That sense of discovery is powerful.
Okay, so back to the mind. Managing thoughts is obviously huge for inner peace. Epictetus comes in here.
Oh yeah, Epictetus is central. His big thing. Figuring out what's in your control and what's not. That distinction is like Stoicism 101.
So simple, yet so profound. Focus your energy where it actually makes a difference.
Right. And the book uses this to talk about useless information.
Useless information.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly in this context? Is it just gossip?
It's broader than that. It's basically anything you consume that doesn't positively impact your life, doesn't help you understand things better, doesn't make you happier, doesn't help you act more effectively.
So, endless scrolling on social media, maybe? News about things you can't influence.
Exactly. Mental clutter. The book uses this great analogy comparing deep reading, like books, to actual food, and then social media to sugar.
Huh. Quick hit, feels good for a second, but ultimately not nourishing, maybe even bad for you long term.
Pretty much. It often leaves you feeling, well, drained or agitated, not peaceful.
Which leads to the idea of being selective, right? Guarding your mind, as the letter says.
Conscious filtering. Being intentional about what you let in, because your time and mental energy, they're finite resources. Choose inputs that actually enrich you.
Okay, so filtering inputs, and then there's focus. The book talks about single-minded focus. Seneca, again.
Yes, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. Classic Seneca. You can't make real progress if your attention is scattered all over the place.
Makes sense. Deep work requires concentration.
Significant goals demand it. The book mentions a few things that chip away at focus aroundly. Poor mental health, getting bogged down in minor tasks.
Or just not having a clear, big goal to aim for in the first place.
Right. But conversely, when you do focus deeply, you can achieve a surprising amount. Like the example of finishing a big writing project quickly through intense concentration.
It's about making a choice, isn't it? Deciding this is the priority right now, even if other things have to wait. Not trying to perfectly balance everything all the time.
Exactly. Sustainable progress often requires that kind of deliberate prioritization, focusing on the stuff that really matters for moving forward.
Okay, shifting gears slightly but related. Know thyself, Socrates. Sounds simple.
Simple to say, incredibly hard to do well. But the book stresses how crucial that self-awareness is for making choices that actually align with who you are.
But people kind of know what they like, don't they?
On the surface, maybe. But the book points out how often we get swayed by fear, by what we think society expects,
Yeah.
by impulse.
Ah, like the example of buying a fancy SUV you don't really need just because it looks successful.
Precisely. Or the introvert who keeps saying yes to big parties even though they know it wipes them out. There's a gap between knowing and doing.
And that gap leads to feeling dissatisfied, maybe, wasting energy.
Absolutely. So true self-awareness here isn't just knowing your favorite ice cream. It's understanding your values, your real goals, what drains you, what energizes you, and then acting on that knowledge.
Okay. And when things get tough, which they inevitably do, the book talks about inner strength.
Yeah, tapping into your resilience. Again, Epictetus is relevant here. Reminding yourself you have endured things before, you do have strength inside.
So like that 3 p.m. slump at work, feeling totally drained.
Instead of just giving in, the suggestion is to actively recall a time you pushed through something difficult. Remember that feeling of accomplishment, that resilience. Use it to fuel you now.
Kind of like a mental pep talk, drawing on past evidence.
Exactly. Recognizing that strength isn't something you have to find outside, it's already within you. You just have to access it.
Okay, this connects to something else. The book covers the stories we tell ourselves about our lives, our personal narratives.
Oh, huge impact. These stories shape our self-perception, our self-worth. And often we tend to focus on the negative ones, right? The failures, the setbacks.
Yeah, beating ourselves up over past mistakes. The author mentions his own struggles with quitting things too early.
And the Stoic perspective offers a powerful reframe here. Instead of seeing challenges as just failures, view them as, well, opportunities, chances to learn, to grow stronger.
Like Marcus Aurelius said, you can choose how events shape you. It's about interpreting the past constructively.
Absolutely. Finding agency even in difficulty. And this leads directly into self-worth. Where does that come from?
The book argues strongly it needs to be internal, right? Not tied to possessions or status or what other people think.
Exactly. Epictetus, again, don't base your value on externals, things outside your control. Your worth as a person is inherent. It's internal.
Easier said than done in our comparison culture, but a really important goal, building that solid inner sense of self.
Definitely. Okay, so we know ourselves, we value ourselves internally. What about making actual decisions out in the world?
Ah, yes. Musonius Rufus comes up here, I think.
Spot on. His key insight. Focus absolutely on what's under your control and entrust the rest to the universe, essentially.
The Stoic distinction again. Control versus non-control.
It's fundamental. The book uses the job interview example. You can control your preparation resume, practice, close.
But you can't control who else applies or the interviewer's mood or the final decision.
Right. So pour your energy into the prep, the controllable parts. That reduces anxiety and empowers you. Do your best, then let go of the outcome.
Makes sense. What about getting advice, though? The book touches on balancing opinions.
Yeah, it's tricky. Seeking feedback is good, wise even, but you can get stuck in analysis paralysis, trying to please everyone, or second-guessing yourself constantly.
So gather input, consider it, but ultimately.
You have to trust your own judgment and take ownership of the decision. It's your life, your choice.
Okay. And once we've made choices, life happens. Sometimes it gives us things we didn't ask for, the unwanted gift idea.
Yes. That little anecdote introduces a huge Stoic concept: acceptance, welcoming what happens.
Even the stuff we don't like. That sounds hard.
It is hard. It's related to amor fati, loving your fate. Not passively giving up, but actively embracing all of reality, the good and the bad, as part of the deal.
Accepting it, maybe even finding value in it, rather than fighting against what already is.
That's the core of it. Less resistance, more peace.
Thinking about the flow of life, the book also brings up how short it all is, the brevity of life.
Yeah, using that story about reconnecting with an old colleague after years apart, suddenly realizing how much time has flown by.
It's a jolt, isn't it? And Seneca's all over this too. It's not about how long you live, but how well, how intentionally.
Making the most of the time we actually have,
Oh.
which ties into living consciously.
Being present, not rushing through moments, always looking ahead to the next thing.
Exactly. Paying attention, savoring experiences, even small ones, finding the meaning in the everyday, not just waiting for big highlights.
But life isn't always meant to be easy and savored, right? The book also talks about the value of hard things.
Oh, absolutely. It pushes back against the idea that we should always seek comfort. Engaging with challenges, physical, mental, relational, that's crucial for growth.
It builds resilience, character, necessary stuff.
The Stoics really encouraged consistent effort, focusing on the process of doing the hard thing, not just the outcome, which might be out of your control anyway.
Like the running example in the book, it's not about being a perfect runner every day.
Right. It's about the consistency. Just
Yeah.
getting out there, putting in the effort. That's where the real value lies, more than hitting a specific time. Progress over perfection.
Okay, one last major theme that stood out. The joy of owning nothing. Minimalism.
Yeah, the author seems quite fond of it. And it circles back beautifully to that Stoic idea. Don't attach your happiness or worth to possessions.
Because they're temporary. Epictetus again, right? You can't lose what you never truly owned in the first place.
A powerful perspective shift. It applies to things, even relationships in a way. They are ours to experience for a time, but not possess forever. Appreciate them now.
Understanding that impermanence can actually be freeing, paradoxically. Less attachment, less fear of loss.
And maybe more appreciation for the present experience itself.
Wow, okay. So, wrapping this up, we've covered a lot from focus on what matters. That core idea of starting within, building inner resilience.
Managing emotions, guarding your mind by being selective about information.
The power of single-minded focus, the importance of really knowing yourself.
Accepting what you can't control, more fati, valuing hard work.
And living consciously, appreciating the present, maybe even finding joy in owning less. It all comes back to focusing on what truly matters, internally and externally.
And these aren't just abstract ideas, they're practical principles rooted in Stoicism that offer real guidance for, navigating life today, for building a more intentional existence.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Reflect on all this. Which area really jumped out at you? Managing emotions, sharpening focus, knowing yourself better, accepting things. What feels most relevant to your challenges right now?
And maybe pick just one thing, one small insight from this whole discussion. What's one tiny step you could take, like today or tomorrow, to start applying it, to focus a little more on what truly matters for you?